Welcome to Accessory to a Mission, Part 2. I'm Amanda Olkey, Director of Adult Education at the International Spy Museum in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Tonight, our guests are two of my favorite people, Dexter Ingram. Hey, Dex.
Hi, Amanda.
Hi, and Jonna Mendez. Hi, Jonna.
Hey, Amanda. Welcome back.
Thank you. Dexter is a counterterrorism and counter weapons of mass destruction strategist and a collector of real gadgets. And just like me, he loves a little bit of James Bond. And Jonna is a former CIA chief of disguise and a spy museum advisory board member. And I don't think I'm the only one that calls her spy royalty. That's what I always say.
We're not worthy.
We are not worthy, but we are frequently allowed to mingle with her. You know, the fabulous Hannah Soloyo, who masterminds just about everything. And don't worry, Shauna Altmans is here. She is behind the scenes making the magic happen tonight. Now, to get us in the right mood for this happy hour, Hannah and I took a little field trip last week to the Doyle Bar at DuPont Circle to meet with some of our great friends there. And I think Hannah's got a video of what transpired.
We do. Here we go. All right, we have to have a drink. It's a happy hour.
Oh my God, that is so great.
Looks amazing.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Woot, woot.
Cheers, family.
Cheers.
And that was the Doyle's wonderful bartender, Victor. So tonight, throughout our program, we're going to be pretty casual because Dexter and Jonna have a really nice energy. And so we're going to look for your questions throughout the program. So don't hesitate to go ahead and drop them in the Q&A throughout the program. We'll try to get some and we'll have time at the end. So we're being really friendly and laid back. But we are going to kick it off with Jonna, who really knows her way around an accessory. That's all I got to say.
Well, thank you, Amanda. It's good to see you back on these shores again after your European trip. We were trying to put together a plan here for where to start, how to start. So the accessories that I want to speak to this evening are in two different categories. One of them has to do with photography, and the other group has to do with disguise, because my whole career, 27 years, was split between those two subjects. It's a transition that not a lot of people make. It's not a natural transition to put down a camera, and pick up a wig, but that's what I did, and it worked out just great. I thought I'd talk about one of the early and very interesting photo programs that the CIA ran There's not a lot known about it. And actually, when you start digging around, they seem to have erased a lot of the key elements. So I can tell you enough of a story to make it interesting. But I have no real ending to this story, except that one Tony told me once when I was barely listening, and that becomes now fact. So it was called the Pigeon Cam. And the CIA had a program at one point to train homing pigeons to do some surveillance for them. The fact that they were homing pigeons was a big part of the program, because they would come back no matter how and where you launched them, they would return to you. So the CIA's idea was that we would outfit these pigeons with cameras. Now you have to think back. This was back in the 60s, early 70s. And we're putting cameras on pigeons that have promised us they will return with the gear and with the goods. It's what I was able to discern is that the goal was to have these pigeons fly in certain strategic areas in the Soviet Union and photograph what was on the ground. Think of them going over like the submarine yards where they're building the next generation of submarines, and our birds are flying because it's in their path on the way home. Okay. So they would fly to a flashing red marker here in the States, and that's how we trained them to fly with the cameras, to fly with the harness. As it turns out, the cameras cost $2,000 each. Doesn't look like a lot for $2,000 back in the late 60s. The cameras weighed 35 grams, so they're really light. The harness weighed less than 5, so altogether it's 40 grams was the load that they were carrying. I can't find many specifics about those cameras. You can see that they're quite small, but would you believe that they were able to gather 140 pictures on each roll of film? That's kind of remarkable. So they experimented with these in Washington, D.C., and they were flying them over our Navy Yard, and they're shooting down, and they discovered that the clarity, the detail that they were able to collect was better than the current day satellite programs back then, which was interesting. It appears from a memo that it's the last piece of writing that I can find anywhere about this program, called Program Takana. The last memo, September 76, says that a target had been selected in the Soviet Union, and it was the shipyards in Leningrad to build the most advanced Soviet subs. And that's actually where the official documented record ends. This was signed off and approved, and then there's nothing. So it wasn't really until the original spy museum was built in downtown Washington, D.C., and we had a room devoted to these fabulous birds, that I asked my husband, Tony Mendez, I said, do you know what happened to that program? Because Tony came in 65, and it looks to me like from 76 on, either this thing was a success or a failure. And Tony told me that they did all of the training back here that they could. They had great success. They boxed the birds up. And the first hop was to get them to Europe. They were met in Europe. They were taken into the office. They were taken out of the crates that they were in, and they had all molted. They had all lost their feathers. They didn't They didn't like being in those crates, and they didn't like being evidently in the belly of those planes. So when they got to Europe, they looked like, what we see in the supermarket, wrapped in plastic in the packages. They were these naked birds. Maybe the reason there's no more detail, maybe it's because they just got so embarrassed at the end of the program that they said, this never happened. No one will ever know that we devoted all this time and energy and nothing happened. That could explain why I can't find any more information on it. But Operation Takana, Pigeon Cam, it was an unusual operation and a great accessory, briefly.
We also at the Spy Museum had a horrifying large spy costume of a pigeon wearing this camera. And some unlucky staff person would wear it on special holidays and work the line. And on Sir Valence's first outing on a Black Friday in another decade, I thought the young man who was wearing it was going to die. I was his assistant. The camera itself weighed like 30 pounds on top of his big furry suit. And my understanding is that it didn't make the trip from Old Spy to New Spy because no one wanted to wear that costume ever again.
Well, the camera going from 35 grams to 30 some pounds would just change the whole nature of the thing, wouldn't it?
Yes, not it.
So that is my my opening story about spy cameras. I don't know if we want to bounce around or if you just want me to talk about some more cameras. I can.
Well, we did have a question, Jonna, which might jump us around, but someone wants to know if you are in disguise.
Right now?
Yeah, I thought that was a great question.
People used to see Tony and I on a stage, and they used to look at us and say, is he really her? Or is she really him? We always get this kind of question. I'm in the lightest form of makeup that you can put on and say you're wearing makeup. That would be my disguise for this evening. I don't usually, I don't have any really good disguise stuff around here. The good stuff was left at CIA. We'll show you a couple of examples of it a bit later when we talk about that career. But my career in photography was, I came in as an amateur photographer. I was going to leave, and they asked me to stay, promising to teach me real photography. Of course, it's all photography that isn't commercially available and I couldn't use anywhere except there. That was part of the plan. To use what they had taught you, you had to stay and you had to move your career forward. So that's what I did. But we used all kinds of cameras for different things. It wasn't fine art photography. It was document copy. We were photographing documents or things and places that were strategically interesting to this government, using all these small cameras.
So, Jonna, in my research to grow my spy collection, I came across last week some posters from World War II, specifically made in the UK, that were kind of basically saying, don't shoot these pigeons. And they offered a reward to folks that turned in folks that shot them. So it was a pretty big deal.
I knew that the Brits had a program completely separate from us. Sometimes we would do things with them together, but theirs was separate. And that might explain in the Old Spy Museum, in the pigeon room, the room dedicated, and one of the pigeons got a medal, weighed more than the camera. But the floor of the pigeon room in the first Spy Museum was a blow up of one of the pictures that the bird had taken. And you could see that he was flying over Neuschwanstein Castle in Bavaria. And you could, the detail was so good that even hugely blown up, you could recognize it. It was remarkable.
Do you have any cameras that you want to share with us, Dex?
Any cameras? Oh my gosh, I have a lot of cameras. So I have the Tikka camera. This is from the turn of the century. It looks like a pocket watch. Let me make sure I get right in the middle. This is kind of rare. To have the watch face is really rare. This is over 100 years old, and it basically takes the camera picture from the top right there. So I've seen a few with the face on. A lot of times they just kind of are like this, and they still resemble what could be a regular pocket watch, but well, it's a camera. And then I won't kind of show everything all at once, but I see that since we're talking cameras, I have this KGB cigarette case that I really love. So this is actually from a KGB training facility in Kyiv, and it has a little camera inside of it as well that you can still see the cigarettes, but that's a picture of it right there. Exactly. And basically the picture on the left, that little bubble there is where it would take the picture through. And the case is specifically made to hold the camera, and there's a little teeny knob sticking out in the bottom picture at the right that kind of pokes out that you press in, and that actually takes the picture. So these fun, rare, disguised gems are always they're a pleasure to like find and collect, but they're just fun. It's fun. The ingenuity is fun. The history behind them that's fun as well.
Dex, sorry, Jonna. I was going to say, Dex, you told us a funny story about the difficulties you had talking about this gear with kids because of what everything seems to be involved with.
Yeah, that's the neat thing. Like, so I was speaking to kids earlier today, and I think today it was 4th and 5th graders, and most of the spy things that I have a lot, but most of it is like cigarettes or lighters or pipes or pens that are guns or just random things. So I had to do the things that speak to kids, and that was bring the dead rat, bring the tiger poo, seismometer, the poo tire popper from World War II. All of those things get kids going, but the fun stuff they can't see.
One of the cameras that we used a lot is one that kids would probably, some kids would associate with James Bond. It was the Minox, the old Minox camera. That was just a classic. It was about this big. It was small. It was sleek. I think Hannah was going to have a picture of it even, but it was used. Some of the James Bond movies used this camera. And that's where everybody came to know it. This thing was developed in the late 30s in Latvia. There's a geography question. Where is Latvia? It's on the border of Russia. It might be the next bite that Putin takes, But this was a great camera because you made me think of it, Dexter. I love this camera because it was my ski camera. And when I would ski and when I would fall, and those two things always went together, it couldn't hurt me and I couldn't hurt it. It would just, you could just land on it. And it was easy.
Dexter, I think you were showing one off.
Yeah,
I do. I just ran and got one. I have a few of them, but it's neat because it's the Riga Minox camera, like you said, from the capital of Latvia. So it's fun. And it has this little cord with it, which allows you to take perfect pictures. You basically take the cord, put it on the document, and take the camera and hold it up. And that's the distance that you need to take a good picture. So it's super easy to use. It's not big, it can be concealed, and doesn't hurt when you fall.
See, we both have the same thing. An issue we had with it over time was that it's a two-handed operation. You have to open it and close it. You need both hands. So if you're going to be really seriously photographing Putin's documents on his desk, you want to do it with one hand and you want to do it with no noise. And that was the only problem that we had with this. It was a good camera.
Jonna, what other fun accessories can a Minox be hidden in?
Oh, well, in a Minox, we didn't hide the Minoxes so much. We hid robots. When we're hiding them, we wanted some kind of a spring actuated, forward movement so that we could put it, say, in a button in a coat. We could put it in a woman's purse. We could put it anywhere. You could put it in the pack of cigarettes. But you needed an actuator somewhere, and so you could have a wire, and you could have maybe a squeeze handle, so you could have that in your pocket. Wherever the camera was, you just squeeze the actuator. There you go. You guys are so good. That's the actuator that you see outside of that KGB coat, and that's the camera, of course, in the button. It's impossible to see that when it opens and closes really quick.
I love whenever Dexter gets up, we know he's got it. Look at that.
You got me running around my man cave getting my items. So here is the button camera. You can see the actuator kind of going off, and you see the aperture open and close. So that's kind of cool. And then
show
you
him how
mentioned the purse.
Dexter, show him how the clicker, the
actuator.
So this would be in your pocket, and this would be a button sticking out the front, and you'd have your hand in your pocket because it's cold in Russia or wherever you are, and you would just click it and you can see the aperture open and close as you click it, and that's a picture being taken.
We have a code. We have, a code on display, and I'm always trying to explain when I'm walking through with someone that sound. I wish we had an audio of the sound because it's so great. It comes through so clearly right now with you showing it, and it's incredibly satisfying.
Yes.
To do that. And I always try to explain to people, like, it feels so good. And you really conveyed it just now. I think that's my ASMR or whatever they say.
Our code is a KGB code. So the guys could be walking down the street and taking 10 pictures of you, just walking at you, walking by you. You would never know. We put them in fake pregnant bellies. Pregnant woman with that funny walk is coming down the sidewalk. She's taking your picture. I saw Dexter start to hold up.
Oh, the purse?
Purse was great. Purse was wonderful.
KGB purse?
Yeah.
Right here. You can look inside, and this one actually has an F21 Ajax camera inside. So very small camera, the same camera that would be on the button.
And where does that, where's the photo on that? Where's the photo, or where's the lens?
The lens would be in this hole right here. And actually the front right of the purse is the only soft spot on the purse. The rest of the purse is really hardened. So that's where you would click to take the picture. So a lady would be walking around with her purse under her arm, just taking pictures, and nobody thinks anything of it.
We would shoot out of the logo. I mean, we'd pick the purse because it has some, some Ralph Lauren logo on it that we could put a camera behind. And we ended up putting the actuators in the shoulder strap because women started, at first you hold in your hand, but a shoulder strap, then all you had to do was just have your hand on the shoulder strap,
That's awesome.
Last week when we were looking at some from our collection, it seemed like, everything shot through some attractive logo or decorative motif. Sure. So that was fun to see that, Dex, that it was shooting out of the side. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were very sneaky with cameras, and so were they. A funny thing was that we would whenever you field a piece of equipment, not just cameras but anything, the other side is going to get one. They're going to capture one. They're going to get your camera or whatever, and they're going to look at it and say, "Oh, look what they're doing. That's cool. Let's do that." So they would modify their own equipment to incorporate our advances, and then we would get their stuff and see what they had done. And so this technology used to bounce back and forth. It was just kind of bizarre.
So cameras, there's so many different cameras that are disguised. We have the OSS kind of precursor to the CIA Matchbox camera, which is really cool because it has the logos of wherever you are in the world on it. Those are kind of taped on. And then, I mentioned earlier,
we actually would print new labels for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you have the John Player cigarette case with the fake cigarettes.
We have that.
These are fun. But these are things you can't show the kids. You're not like, hey, here's matches, here's cigarettes.
This is slightly random, but people are enjoying watching you run around, Dexter. And someone wants to know, do you have a Secret Sam attaché case from the mid-60s?
So I don't. I have, you know what? I'll show you what I have.
Because I don't know Secret Sam. Sorry, I know I took it off accessories for a second, but whilst Dex was running around, I thought it would be fun to ask that.
So I have this. This is kind of fun. This is a movie prop, from the 60s. And, I do have certain like collectible toys from like Man from U.N.C.L.E. and places like that. Got a lot of pinball machines and other neat little things. But my heart is the real spy collection, the CIA, the Stasi, the KGB, French resistance, OSS, SOE. That's where it is.
Well, back to that, Hannah. Where should we be going? I'm taking us off out of the flow.
There is no flow. It's the fun of tonight. I know. Let's see, where do you want to go, guys? Jonna, we've got some fabulous photos of you in disguise holding accessories. You want to jump into that?
I'm not sure they were all fabulous, but I'm always ready to go to disguise.
Oh, wait, one quick question. There was a
Yeah.
lever below the shutter release. I think this is the buttonhole camera. A lever below the shutter release with numbers on it. Does that make sense? I may be misunderstanding the question. Can that be done on the fly, or is it preset?
This is usually when you put one of these together and you're going to use it, everything is preset pretty much. You know the lighting, you know the film you need to use. You have a sense of how many pictures you can take. Those kinds of things are built into the operation. Why would they have numbers, Dexter?
So this one right here actually has like Cyrillic on the back. If you see at the very top,
yeah.
And this little lever here moves. And that's a really good question because I have not really looked at that before. So that question basically has me doing some research to look that up. But I do see this moves and there's some numbers on the back.
That might be a production number, do you think? I mean,
it could be. It's like I said,
like a big number though.
I also see on the one we have in our collection, I'm going to flash it on the screen because I think this might be one of the other, and I don't know what these are for either, is right here.
That looks like FStops. Those are FStops. That's the opening of the aperture.
Yeah.
It has to do with the amount of light that's going to be coming in. And depending on the film you're using, you would adjust that.
Okay.
You see those same numbers on film cameras today.
There we go.
The one I have actually has the dots for that, but it doesn't have the numbers. So you can take the same piece right here and move it based on where you are, but you just have to know what the dots mean. There's the same 3 dots.
Yeah.
Oh, here's a great question. And what's the weirdest thing that you've come across that had a concealed camera in it?
Jonna, do you want to go first?
I'm sitting here thinking, we put cameras in everything.
Yeah.
We had a camera in the back of like a fastback car. It was in Vienna, Austria, and there was a meeting that was going to happen, and somebody was going to hand something to somebody, and we were going to capture it. So we had a camera in a laundry basket, and we filled the laundry basket up full of netting that has kind of a body, but it was black netting because you can shoot through something like that. You can shoot through an animal cage at a zoo, and if you do it right, you can get rid of the bars. So we had black netting. It was supposed to look like it's full of laundry. Our camera was in there. We worked on that for a week. We set it up. That meeting happened. The guy came, and I can't remember why, but we didn't get a picture.
It's amazing. Your stories of where nothing even happens are just the coolest. So
it was not only weird, but it was also unsuccessful. So it's a twofer.
I just, gosh, maybe I'm just so close to it that everything has a camera in it. Literally everything, every bit of equipment. Nowadays cameras are so small, obviously everything can record something, but back in the day, I mean, even 100 years ago, to have this with a camera in it was amazing. Something so small. So
that's why we're all paranoid, right?
Yeah. We know.
All right, we have lots of requests to get a little bit more into disguise. Anything you want to share about disguise?
I'm good to go with disguise. I asked Hannah to show this one picture of, that's me. Sometimes when I give talks, I forget, and I like to lead off with this, me and a mustache and a cigar. And I forget to tell people that is me. And of course, at the end of the talk, they come up and say, you didn't tell us who that guy was at the beginning. Was that like your husband? Is that like, a significant person? Oh, no, that was just me. There is a story. This was an exercise we did with the FBI. That's what this is out of. It was actually, it became a TV program. It was on Discovery Channel. I think it was called Spy Catchers. And it was an exercise that they put together where they got the FBI's G-men to come out on the streets and play this game with the CIA's disguised people to see how we do, to see if we could get by the FBI. And while we knew this would be an entertainment, this was going to be a TV show, blah, blah, blah. We had no idea if the FBI could catch us or would catch us, and they didn't know either. So it got really real. They did not want to lose on national TV, and neither did we. So this whole evening, my heart was pounding. You would have thought I was in Moscow. Like, oh God, please don't catch me. I'll be so embarrassed. And this was the culmination of that exercise where Tony and I split up, and I said, they'll all go with you because they're FBI and they won't follow the woman in this thing. They'll think they'll think you've got the football, dear. And so they did just that. They followed Tony. But once they figured out that it was me and they came trying to find me, it was too late because I had turned into this old man. I had a tiny pebble in my shoe to make me, it was really uncomfortable to walk. So it made me not limp, but it made me change my walk. I have a very distinctive walk. And at the end of the evening, we ended up sitting with the FBI in a bar in Georgetown. Well, Tony was there with them because they had followed him for a good part of the evening. And I succeeded in what I was supposed to be doing, which is handing a document to a terrorist. And then I went to the bar. So all these FBI guys are sitting there with my husband, and this old man walks up to their table. And it's like, they were like, yes. And then they looked at me again and they got it. So I sat down and had a beer. We had a talk. Talked about what each side had done right, what each side had done wrong. But one of them looked down and he said, you've got blood all over your shoe. And I said, it's nothing. It's just, it's just nothing. Anyway, it was a memorable evening. And so this is my fragment of a memory.
I love the fact that you won. I love the fact that you beat the agents. I love the fact that they followed Tony instead of you. I mean, there's a culture piece there,
That whole thing of everything about disguise, no, not everything. A lot of what we were doing with disguise was based to counter surveillance. And worst case scenario was Moscow. So the last book, Moscow Rules, that's kind of what it's talking about. What's it like to work in the worst, most difficult place in the world? And how do you elude surveillance? And this was an example, because it's not really just putting on a mustache and lighting a cigar. It is figuring out who they are and what they're looking for. And there's a whole psychology of making it work, which was kind of the fun part. So to give the audience, I gave Hannah some pictures. I'm not sure she saw them before. A lot of people think that disguise is makeup, and making you look wonderful. So Hannah, I was out in LA, I was going to do this thing on this TV show, and I got a makeup artist to do the LA thing to me. Even there, I look better than I look because I'm wearing false eyelashes and red lipstick. We're halfway there when this picture was taken. But Hannah, if you go to the next one, so they turned me into this blonde gal who I was
amazing.
I was kind of amazed that she was there. And then on the TV show, they were amazed that I was there too, because they couldn't find me. It was called To Tell the Truth. It's a show I really didn't want to do it, but I did it. And it turned out to be one of the most fun things I ever did, because I not only fooled them once, but I went back the second time and I fooled them yet again. They had no idea. They were lying. They were literally lying on the floor. These poor people who were supposed to figure out what was going on. It was hysterical. But this is what disguise is not. It is the reason I want to put this up. It's not makeup. It's not looking good. It's not trying to improve yourself, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman. It is to completely change the way you look so that you're not identifiable. So we would always tell people, you're probably not going to look better than you normally do when we get done. You're probably not going to like us because you're going to look worse. We're going to change everything we can from the top to the bottom. It's also not.
Jonna, people loved the show. They loved you on the show. They think you look stunning. I just wanted to share some of these live comments coming through. I like you better like you, though. I'll say that.
That must have been Tony. Anyway, it was.
No, we all feel that way.
It was an experience. So when we would work on someone, like I said, you'd probably look a little worse. There were some pictures that aren't here, so I'll just tell you. During the pandemic, I got a note from somebody at SPY that said, everybody's really down in the dumps here because we're closing and everybody's going home, and it's just, everyone is in a terrible mood. So could you maybe send a picture or two, get in disguise and just make them laugh? So I did that. I went, I had like a trunk of old stuff, old wigs, old firemen's hats, mustaches, leather jackets, kerchiefs. So I did 6 different disguises out on my balcony with a brick wall behind, and they were pretty hysterical. And I guess they got a laugh. We can't find them, so we can't show them to you anymore.
I have the old one though that we just found with the newspaper.
Oh, you could show. Yeah, there's that. We can
Nice.
we can just do all kinds of things with a wig. But some people can't wear a wig. Some people hate wearing a wig. The only people that liked wearing wigs were bald people. And a lot of the bald people look better without a wig.
You always told us, Jonna, maybe me because I kept asking, you said you could make me older, not younger. You could make me fatter, not thinner.
It's an additive process.
Yeah.
You can't subtract anything. I can't make you thinner. I can't make you shorter. If you're a woman, I could make you prettier, but I won't. Mostly it's a reductive sort of thing. There are restrictions on what you can do. You just can't do it. But the goal, when we were working, the serious goal was to, the idea was you're going to meet somebody or you're going to be somewhere, and that person is going to go and sit down and write a memorandum for the record that I saw this person and this is what I saw. And everything in that description should be wrong. All of it, from the top to the bottom. If you had dark hair, we'd give you blonde. If your hair was straight, we'd make it curly. If you had a beard, we'd make you take it off. If you didn't have a beard, we'd give you one. If your eyes were blue, we'd make them brown. Everything about you. Were you married? You had to take your ring off. We would just it was like building an onion, so that when that person would hand that piece of paper to whoever they're going to hand it to, it was useless because it had nothing to do with you. Was it an American? Maybe not. Did that person smoke? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. All of it was wrong. You wear cologne and that gold chains, or, did he look like some kind of a player? Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. It just made you unrecognizable. That was the goal.
So Jonna, following up on that, we had a great question come in. Is it better to create a disguise close to your real self or as different as possible?
What we used to tell, the women, I have to say this, the women came to this much more naturally, this disguise thing, but most of our clients were not women. As women, we're having a bit of a climb in CIA. Most of the people we disguised were men. Tell me your question again.
Is it better to create a disguise that's closer to yourself or complete opposite?
We used to say you could take the slightest disguise and give it to a person who had the ability to almost to act. And it would come off better than the most detailed disguise that we could build for someone who would be nervous and tentative and hesitant in his disguise. The materials were important, but the ability to wear the materials were even more important. And the way we would sort that out, we would meet an officer at CIA maybe 3 times. He'd come in, he'd say, this is what I need, this is where I'm going. He'd come in a second time, we'd have some stuff saying this, what do you think? He'd come back for a final fitting. They always, at the end, every one of them would say, oh, God, this is great. Oh, thank you so much. It would fit in a DOP kit, and they'd be stuffing it in, saying, this is just, we'd say, no. Put it back on, because now you have to go to lunch at CIA to the cafeteria, where everyone who knows you, where everyone you've ever worked with, your boss, your colleagues, they're all down there having lunch too. So we want you to go wear this down there, go have lunch, and then come back. And invariably they would. I mean, I can't ever remember one who said, my boss said, what the hell are you doing? No. Everybody came back saying, nobody knew who I was. Nobody recognized me. And then you had the sense that they might wear it, actually use it. Because the thing with men is they don't want to put on wigs. They don't want to glue on mustaches. It's not a women, okay, whatever. But men are a tougher breed. Yeah.
I don't know about tougher. We're just like bizarre too. It's interesting to me because I have that generic look where if I go to Afghanistan, like when I'm there and I have my Taliban beard, I fit. And if I go to Puerto Rico, I fit. And if I go to Mexico, I fit. And that's been a great benefit, just from my heritage, my background, and my genes. But it is interesting. I just spent 2 weeks in Morocco. I just came back this weekend. Everybody comes to me speaking either Arabic or French. They just assume, and it is. I think it's a good thing. I wish I spoke every language that they assume I speak, but it's a lot of fun.
It is good. Tony had that look. He could be wherever he was. He looked like he belonged in that place. It's depending on what you do for a living, it's very handy to have that. I would tell you one story, just worst case scenario in Moscow, and I want to make this quick because I know we only have an hour. But there was a chief of station out in Moscow who had to meet with someone, and he had never liked disguise, and he didn't want to use disguise, and we had never given him a disguise. And so he tried twice to get out the gate of the embassy, and he had to knock on someone's door and say, "You need to leave the country. They're going to arrest you." And you know what happens then. He couldn't get away from surveillance. So he went into the office, and there was a thing on the shelf. It was called the Carol disguise. It was a generic female disguise that any officer in an emergency, you could try this. Tony left it like a little gift. So the chief of station puts on the Carol disguise, which was a mask. It was a wig. It was a dress. He got in, and Carol was the wife of someone out, not a CIA person, someone else. The husband pulled their car out. Our chief of station got in the car, and the husband handed the chief of station Carol's ice skates. This was her signature. Everybody knew that's what she did. She was ice skating in Moscow. And they drove through the gate, and the chief of station, nobody came after them. He went, he knocked on the agent's door and said, "You got to leave. They're going to arrest you. This thing is about to be published." And the man said, "They will never arrest me. They won't." And they didn't. But the story was the disguise that this guy, forever, ever, ever at CIA headquarters, we all knew that he had gotten out of a car in a skirt. And he did it.
That is awesome.
He did it.
We have while we're on disguise, folks want to know what do you think of the disguises in The Americans, the TV show?
I didn't like Carrie's. It was just Carrie with a different hairdo and a different color. I thought that she was almost too beautiful, and they just wouldn't mess with her, or maybe she didn't want to be messed with. I thought hers were very unsuccessful. On the other hand, I can't remember their names. He was fabulous, and he did exactly that thing we were talking about, where he had the girlfriend with the apartment, and he kept showing up at her door. He's this little now he looks really like mousy, and he's got this messy wig on, and he's got this demeanor. He just wore that disguise, and it was doing exactly what it needed to do. So it's 50-50. And I talked to Joe Weisberg about that. Of course, he has nothing to do with the disguises. But I said, I really liked what he did, and I thought, Carrie, they should have done more. Does everybody but me know that they got married and had a baby? Everybody knows that, right?
Yeah, I saw that.
I always
That's
thought
cool.
that was amazing.
Shauna says they're Philip and Elizabeth on the show.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah,
Phil,
Elizabeth, a little one.
He had the cool makeup. You're right. He was very mousy, and he kind of awkward. And I think he pulled it off.
He was modeling a geek kind of. He was a geek.
Yeah. You want to downplay it. You don't want attention. You don't want to be flashy. You don't want to be pretty. You don't want to stand out. You don't want to be, you want to be that person. It's like the stuff that I was talking about earlier, the dead rat or the dog-eat-do that nobody wants to touch. you want that to be personified in human form to a certain extent, or people just kind of go about you by you and they don't really pay attention.
We called it the little gray man. Even if you were a woman, we called it the little gray man. So you get on an elevator, you get off, and nobody even remembers that you were on the elevator. That was the goal.
There it is.
The design goal.
Well, last week we saw the fabulous Omega that James Bond wore in the new movie that we haven't even put on display yet. Dexter, you kicked us off with a camera in a pocket watch, but you know, I hear you've got some pretty juicy, fabulous watches to show us to drool over.
I do have some different watches. It's kind of fun. There's so many different themes. There's the smoking thing, there's the watch thing, there's the hidden camera thing. A lot of James Bond movies, they use certain watches. So this was a watch that basically was used when it has a little TV screen on it. And you got to go back in time, like 25 years. This was state-of-the-art technology. Things like this Pulsar watch. This was another one of those top of the line, you know, digital watches for James Bond. You know, these
what
are things
movie are you? Can you tell us the movie or?
So I want to say Moonraker for the last, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I can run around the corner and let you know. But there's a variety of different ones. I mean, some of them did different things. This one actually had a little ticker tape that kind of came out the side of it. So he had a Seiko phase. He obviously had his Omega phase. This is another Seiko. And then we have like the real fun stuff, like in the Spy Museum, this Steineck ABC, you know, the classics.
What year is that?
Oh my gosh, I knew you were going to ask me that. I used to know. Gosh, I'm getting old.
Do you know,
Thanks,
Jonna?
Amanda.
I do not.
I'm here to be annoying. I can find out.
It's cool.
It's old. I think it's pretty.
Is it?
Cool. Do you think so?
Yeah. It's older than I am. I don't remember the year for the life of me, but I knew when I first got it. And then we have a lot of pop culture things. This is From Russia with Love, when Red Grant kind of killed the fake James Bond with the Garrett. So you have this, and he had the watch on his wrist, and he pulled this out and he put it around James Bond's neck. It was at the opening scene, and he kills him. So a lot of pop culture items when it comes to watches. And my wife, before I went to Afghanistan,
I think that first watch might be 1949-ish. Does that sound right, or is it too early?
Which first one? The Steineck,
or the one with like kind of multiple, the first watch camera.
The first watch camera.
Watch camera. I think that might be from my very bad quick. No. Sorry, the first wrist watch. I thought it was a camera that you held up. Not the first one, but the first with a camera in it.
Square screen.
That was real.
Oh, this one.
No.
The one we have at the museum too.
The one we have at the museum.
Steineck.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that might be from the 40s. What do you think? Or is it later?
I somehow in my mind I keep thinking 52, but you're probably right.
No. I'm sure if that's what you've got in your head. We have our Steineck ABC is 1949.
So yours is probably more accurate. I've been collecting so long that I've forgotten so much. I mean, so much of it's pop culture, some of it's like real world stuff. It's just a lot of fun. I mean, like for me, you do what speaks to you, right? And if you keep like collecting and something speaks to you, that's great. I've had collectors come to me in the past and say, this is the best thing in the world. And I was like, for you, like for me, it doesn't speak to me, and I'll pass on that. But there are things that I'm just like totally geeking out about. I see certain things that you see for auction every blue moon, and you're just like, you call your wife, you're like, honey, this is probably going to happen. Sorry, you know, and she's awesome and says, I got it, understood. But yeah, you know, when these things pop up, they're just so much fun to collect and grow. And you look around and you got 20 watches, and you have 50 different cameras, and you have real world James Bond items. It's such a small community. I can tell you that, I know a lot of the Bond actors just from real world things that we do, and the Bond girls, and throughout the different travels, and we just became friends over the years, and it's a lot of fun. I'm an absolute geek when it comes to this stuff. I'm a fan, and I'm a collector. My real world job is just a coincidence that it's something kind of in counterterrorism, kind of similar, but that wasn't the plan. You just follow your heart, and that's, with family, with work, and with your hobbies, all of it kind of comes together.
So Dexter, someone is dying to know, has anyone ever been suspicious about the purchases you're making?
So I have to be so transparent. I've learned in my life now that I leave zero space for wondering about anything, and I have to sit there and I go to the State Department. When I joined the advisory board for the Spy Museum, I had to go and say, is this okay? And they were like, yep, sounds great. If I'm speaking at an event, if I'm buying something, I'm just very transparent. I use my whole name. Now it's kind of neat because all the guys and girls that write the books that I've been reading for 30 years, we have relationships. And so they kind of give me a heads up, hey, this is coming on the market. And I have certain things like the Matchbox camera that I have more than one of, and I'll trade that. And it's kind of fun because those are really rare too. I just happened to have 3 of them at one point. And we have mutual friends, but one of my friends had a World War II chess piece with a real compass in it, and it was a part of a bigger Ajax chess set, and we were able to make that swap. And those are fun because they're geeked, I'm geeked, we're all kind of just enjoying these moments, and just talking about our collections and where we are. You have to have a tolerant spouse, that's for sure.
That's all wonderful to hear. It really is. Your heart is in this. 100%.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. Well, that's why we have so much fun, Jonna, because it's just, you have so many amazing stories. I tell some stories every once in a while, and some people like my stories, but your stories are you. Today, when I was speaking earlier, I was telling them, I said, I get to do this tonight with you, and it's always special.
We're both, I think, immersed in our subject, right? Would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
Hannah and I are fighting over questions behind the scenes. So I'm going to ask this one. She'll be mad at me because I don't know if she wants to, but this came in really early and we've been holding on to it for the end because it is both James Bond and also real world. And I guess mainly for Jonna, if any of the ideas that Q shows 007 were considered for research by your department or Dexter, have you ever run across anything that was real that you're like, this is the spitting image of something from Live and Let Die or Octopussy or all the other movies that people were telling us your watches were in while we listened to you?
When I was early in my career, when I was working back here at headquarters, we had duty officers assigned on the weekends. We had duty officers out in the DDS&T office to take phone calls for all kinds of things happening around the world. But a lot of the phone calls that would come in on the weekend were from our own officers who had watched one of these TV shows like Get Smart, or there was a whole series of fun shows about that used a lot of spy gear. And they would call us and they would say, can we do that? Do we have one of those? And I mean, it would, we'd get those messages on Monday morning and we'd have to sort through them. And every once in a while we'd call the person and say, we don't do that. Do you have a need for that? And they'd make their case. And there were a couple of situations where I think we took the technologists that could make that happen and started working on some programs. It wasn't unheard of that it would come off of a pop culture thing on TV into our lap and maybe turn into something. I can't tell you anything in particular, but it was a dialogue that was kind of always going back and forth. because sometimes the TV shows, they would have things that we would never think of it, because I mean, some of it was just so outrageous. You couldn't bring it up in a meeting. Someone was going to never invite you to the meeting again. But when it came in the side door like that, we would pay a little more attention. So yeah, I'm sure it turned into a couple of real things.
But see, this is the same reason the agency needs you and needs Tony, the artists, the background, the people that think outside the box, the same type of folks that make these TV shows or just kind of have that futuristic connection to where we could go. You know, when you're dealing with folks that are so grounded day to day and they're just kind of focused on what they're doing. I call it shooting zombies. You're so busy shooting zombies, you're not planning for the future. And when you come in there, or when Tony comes in there, or you know, Steven Spielberg, like, you know, makes a movie, or Star Trek comes out, it gets people thinking. It gets you thinking about not just spy stuff, but technology, you know, in the broader sense, and space exploration and all those fun things that make our hearts skip.
You know, I gave a talk at West Point about 2 months ago, and the talk, I was like, what do they want me to talk about? They wanted creativity, problem solving. They want me to come back. I might suggest that we bring you, and you and I could just go at it. It's so much fun.
I love it. I love it. I'll be there. You tell me when.
Really, I may have to get in touch with you. We're on the same wavelength.
You know.
Drink to that. I'll drink to that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's drink to that.
Oh,
Do you want to ask a final question, Hannah, or?
There's so many good ones. I'm just trying to, which one are you liking, Amanda? We have a lot of questions behind the scenes, so we are not getting to all of them.
No, which we will pass on to, lots of good salutes. I don't know. We could just say, any tips for a collector starting out? Someone really wanted to know about collecting OSS and SOE stuff. Any tips, Dexter? And then we'll let you go and the real drinking can begin.
So, there are a lot of fakes out there. There are a lot of forgeries out there. So just kind of be discerning. I think that when you start collecting, you again, follow your heart. Don't try to make it like perfect. And if you have replicas and that's how you're starting out, it's okay. If you get something and it's very common, that's cool too. Know the history, know the stories, kind of read the books. There's a lot of books with amazing pictures and graphics that kind of pull you in. You get to learn. And over time, like I've started to, like, I look at my walls now and everything's an original except for the Casablanca poster behind me, because I think the original is like 300,000 or something crazy. But literally everything else got to that point. But it took 30 years to get there. You know, the collection. I have regretted not buying things. I can tell you that. I've never regretted anything that I've bought that made me go, "Ooh, this is a little tough." I have been fooled when I first started. And when you read the books, you kind of get educated, reach out to the authors of the books. People want to help you. They want to say, "Oh, that's a fake," but you know, next time run it by me first. So I have about 15 things that if you're a new collector and you want things that are kind of knockoffs, I don't mind parting with, but just know I'm not going to sell those as real or original. And I probably would give them away, to be honest. But it's a lot of fun, and it's something that's different. You know, there's real history there, there's real people there, and there's real stories there, and that's exciting. So.
And kids, well, everybody on the program wants to come to your house, Dexter. So you have let us all into your home. We already knew we wanted to go to Jonna's house, but you know, now thank you both for really sharing your homes with us and your passions. It's always a pleasure, and we will have a program in mid-July on the 14th when, if you want to hang out with Jonna and Dexter, you can do it at the museum, not at their houses. So stay tuned for that. Meanwhile, I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Our next virtual program will be on Thursday, the 26th at noon Eastern time, and that will be one of our spy chats, and Chris Costa will be joined by Rick Prado. That will be a great conversation. So please check our website for all kinds of programs for adults and for kids. And Dexter helps us with all different types of things, as does Jonna. And so thanks for being here. Thanks to Hannah and Shauna always. And if you enjoyed the program, please help us continue to be able to bring these to you at no charge. Our wonderful donors support the Spy Museum's nonprofit mission all year. We couldn't do it without you. And cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye.